I wanted to put a personal picture on the Nurse-Family Partnership and the clients that we serve. I am a supervisor. I started out as a field nurse 2 years ago. I've been a supervisor almost 1 year. I still see clients in the field. It's really impossible, unless you were actually there, to feel the impact that the Nurse-Family Partnership has on relationships with these young women. A 13-year-old, pregnant, alone, no family support, boyfriend is just out there doing whatever he wants to do. She has no knowledge of even really how she got pregnant. And you have to sit down with her and you have to explain this is the way it works. And then you have to get past the fact that she doesn't understand life because she's young. She may not want to listen to you. She may not even be there on the days that you go to visit and you made an appointment with her. And you think if you make an appointment with someone, they'd show up, right? Not always the case. But it's the nurse who goes back visit after visit, calling on the phone, sticks with the client throughout the whole entire pregnancy. And what happens, as that time goes on, and I can say this for myself, they begin to expect to see you there. And they will get to the point where they say, if you're 5 minutes late, they'll call you and say, I thought you were coming. What happened? I'm on my way. One of the most important parts of the relationship is when the client goes into the hospital to have the baby. Most of the nurses, including myself, endeavor to be there as soon after the baby is born as possible. The idea that your nurse, your own personal nurse, is coming to see you in the hospital, it's a great feeling. I have seen the faces of these young ladies transform when I walk through the door. They feel so connected. That solidifies the relationship right there at that point. If it had not happened up until that point, once you're there in the hospital, they bond with you. Remember, they're vulnerable and they're open. And that's also a great time to now put the baby skin to skin and start the breastfeeding process. Because the nurses in the hospital, great though they may be, are very, very heavily taxed with other clients and they're running around. So you can come in, you can sit one-to-one, talk about the breastfeeding, position the baby, get the mother started, and make your next appointment. You say, I'm going to see you at home. So it's important, if a crisis arises, that that young person has someone to call. That know that they can call the nurse, they can ask the nurse any question. And what I found out during my process of learning the program is that really the key to this is consistency, reliability, and fidelity to the model of the Nurse-Family Partnership. Many things happen, many challenges happen. We have young ladies that are homeless, we have young ladies that are in abusive relationships. The nurse goes in as the first line to address the problems. If a client is in crisis, no matter what it is, the nurse puts her little planned lesson aside. She focuses on the need of the client and she addresses it. Maybe it's no food in the house. She's going to either have her little Rolodex ready where there are available places where she can go in the community, or she's going to call the office and say, my client doesn't have any food in the refrigerator. Where can I get some? If they're facing eviction, she just said, this is where you need to go. A lot of this comes from lack of knowledge, and the nurse is really there to provide the help and the resources. What we require from the community and from individuals like you is to, we know the numbers are there, the nurses are doing the work. We need you to get the word out, to spread the importance. If I had had my own personal nurse when I was having my own children, I would have been grateful. But I stumbled, the not knowing and the stumbling and, finding this and finding that, for me, was a challenge. So I can imagine if you're young, you're vulnerable, your life is uncertain, your home environment is unsure, and here comes someone who's a professional. Here's someone who can address your needs personally. Someone that says, I'm going to be with you. I'm going to share your burdens. I'm going to address your needs. I'm going to show you how to advocate for yourself. We are not there to direct them. We are there to guide them to make healthy choices, healthy decisions, so that they and their baby can have healthy outcomes. And as the data has shown, the program is effective, the program is positive, and we ask you to support the program, get the word out, any way you can, help us to continue the work that we started so that we can have more healthy babies, healthy mothers. Remember, if you save a child, you can save a community. I thank you.
Okay, I have two questions. For Tamar, in each category, when you were talking about the evaluation in the 3 locations, Elmira, Denver, and Memphis, what is the control group? And given that the control group is not getting visits, how is that data generated? And for Deborah, you said that you have 28,000 eligible women in New York City, and your goal is to get to 17,000, which is 60%. What about the other 40? Would they not be interested?
In terms of the control group, they do. They received services in each of the 3 trials. They received some level of services, but not the full level of services, like the Nurse-Family Partnership. So they were comparable in terms of socioeconomic status and other relevant factors. I don't have all of them in my mind, but it's been considered sort of some of the best control group studies that have been conducted, so they were matched as closely as possible. And they did receive some services, so they weren't left without anything. They just didn't receive the full package of NFP.
We would love it if all 28,000 enrolled when we have it at that size 10 years from now. But we know the reality is that no matter how hard people try, it's a voluntary program, and it's not for everyone. And some women just, don't feel comfortable having someone for whatever reason. It's an intensive thing. There are clients that they just can't. You can probably speak to that even better than I can.
What happens if the referral is an open referral? And often when the nurse goes into the home, for various reasons, there may be drug use in the home, right, by other parties other than the client. The client's parent or parent may object to having someone as a role model when they themselves are not being a role model. So they will kind of make it more difficult for us to be there. Sometimes the client is very transient. They want to be in the program, but their living situation is very unstable. So even though they want to be involved and they want to enroll in the program, if they don't have stable housing, how can they engage in a weekly visit? So it's so many different variables that can affect enrollment. And what we try to do is address them as best we can and to make as many compromises as we possibly can. But not everybody is going to be able to fit. Some people are very intimidated by someone new coming into the environment, especially if it's from another culture. So those are things that we have to face.
But I would just add that I think our nurses, if their person will enroll, they are going to get enrolled by our nurses. And there was one nurse who gave an anecdote where she had to meet this client where she was at, which was McDonald's, for about 2 months before the client finally let her into the home. Sometimes the client's mother won't let the nurse in the home. The client wants her and the mother doesn't want them in the home. And in this case, not only did she meet in the car outside McDonald's, but the boyfriend, who was 14, got involved, and together they watched a DVD on labor and delivery in her car. So, I mean, the nurses are incredibly creative.